Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Majority Podcast Live. This is Scotland's number one anti nationalist podcast, going live out on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. I'm the host, Mark Devlin, and I'm here tonight with my co hosts, Niall Fraser and David Griffiths. What do you think we'll be talking about tonight?
Tonight, I will be talking about Kate Forbes and her latest spending cuts.
And tonight I'll be talking about the ongoing travel chaos.
And I'll be asking the question of everyone's lips: can Scotland afford Nicola Sturgeon?
Indeed. And of course, we have Zoomer of the Week.
All right, so we'll be back in just a moment. Right, as always, we'll start the show with a shout out to our donors. You all made this possible with your crowdfund, and if you like the show, you can donate to the Majority. Give us a one-time or a monthly donation, which would really help. Just by going to our website, and there's a big donate button at the top, and that would be really great. Also, like to always give a shout out to our friends at UK Union Voice and United Against Separation, who kindly let us distribute the podcast on their Facebook pages, and many of you will be watching from there. So, if you can, please support those pages also.
Indeed, don't forget also you can watch on Twitter and on YouTube, where you can subscribe to the Majority.
Yes, and please do like, share, comments, tell your friends, extend the reach at a click of a button. The single greatest thing you can do right now is click that like button and the share button. Good comments get read in the show. Keep them short though, so we can fit them on screen, and we'll try to get as many read as we possibly can.
Very good. Actually, one of the things we're going to talk about first is that it's actually the 2 years since we started the Majority. I want to do a very brief review of what we've been up to all this time, and it will help if I can find my notes. Okay, here we are. Right, okay, so we started the Majority because 2 years ago, I think our community of anti-nationalists was really very demoralised and demotivated. There was a lot of negativity going around. I don't know, what do you think about that, Niall?
Well, of course, there's a lot of negativity floating around. I mean, there's never been a more toxic environment in Scotland now. You can feel it in the air. So, of course, there's frustration on everyone's lips on all sides.
I think
not a great time.
People really had a hard time. You know, I'd been away for a long time. I'd been living in Japan and the United States, and I came back, and I was really surprised to see that nationalism had been so accepted as the norm in Scotland. And that I think that was the thing that really struck me. I often talk about the boiling frog syndrome.
Yeah.
You know, you hear that story. The frogs are in the pot, and the heat is going up and up and up. But they stay in the pot. They just think, oh, it's getting a wee bit warmer, but they're not motivated enough to get out. And then, you know, they end up dying or something in the pot. I don't know, is this an Aesop's fable or something like that? But well known. And that's my feeling a little bit of, you know, many of the people in Scotland. And coming back almost as an outsider, it was that feeling that, you know, there was all this nationalism going to be normalised by Alex Salmond, the media, Nicola Sturgeon, the opposition even, and the people, the majority of the people who didn't vote for this, anti-nationalists, were, you know, just completely frustrated. They didn't know what to do. I mean, of course, there are many people out there who are, you know, fighting, but a lot of them were as well demoralised with going on for so long. David, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, just to explore a bit further your analogy there, the point of the boiling a frog metaphor, if you like, is that a frog will happily sit in a pan of gently warming milk or water until such time as it's cooked to death. Whereas if you drop a frog into a pan of already boiling water, it will jump straight out again because it's like, oh, this is awful. This is awful. And I think that's a very exactly right. People will far more readily swallow incremental change is the point of analogy, and it's true. If you'd said 15 years ago, what SNP are going to do is they're going to insist on a referendum every 5 minutes. They're going to hack public service, millions of pounds of 10-day referendums, which aren't even going to happen, and all you're going to get in terms of answers in Holyrood and debate in Holyrood is staged questions and an SNP MP barely managing to read from a script. It's pathetic. We'd have said, my God, we'd never vote for that. And that's exactly where we are. We've fallen into
Well,
this.
I think that even goes back to even the devolution argument, the
Sure.
idea that if, devolution would provide more, would have a better Scotland. And here we're sitting here in the rubble, and there's the education, health, just overspending, incompetence, everything there. It's just a disaster. So, I mean, that was one of the things I think we myself and Mary anyway, we were like, okay, well, this is really quite surprising here. This is the way this is going. And so we thought we would do something, we'd get started. And we thought at the beginning, actually, funnily enough, we thought we would do some kind of media thing. And it's turned out eventually 2 years later into a podcast. But along the way, we've had really good support from people. And we've run a few big campaigns, which were, quite high profile campaigns, try and get these on here. The main one I think people know us for was a Resign Sturgeon campaign. Let me see if we can put this up there. This is in the Sun. There's some pictures of it there. It says, "Watch as they fly a banner over the Holyrood." And so that went really well. We did some other high-profile campaigns in this last election. We ran the SNP councils are rubbish. I don't know if I have that particularly. And that's one of the things we do. I think there was a kind of mealy-mouthed attitude to fighting back in some ways, and I think we wanted to be much more direct. What do you think of that, David?
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, still here. Yeah, I was reading these comments there, guys. Sorry, some crackles here already. I think what we've done is to take the fight back to the nationalists. Really, I think that's what the majority has successfully done, and I'm very, very heartened by the interactions we have on here. I think we are beginning to be noticed, and I think that's terrific. We've even got some naysayers tonight. Somebody's seen fit to come on and start swearing at us, which is great. Carry on, mate. You keep wasting your typing finger. We're not remotely interested in what you think, but carry on anyway. So I'm sure you can all see what this guy's saying, guys. So that just shows you we are clearly landing blows if people are taking their time to come on here and use profanities and start insulting us. Okay, please keep it up if that's what you want to do.
Well, lest we forget that we were branded ultra unionists by the other side. So I think we're definitely having an impact if they're calling us ultra. Anything's quite intense, but ultra unionists. What was it Susan Aiken said? Anti-democratic, misogynistic, extremist organisation. So welcome to Scotland's extremist podcast, according to you.
Well, what they always want to do is they want to name you as what they are. They call them.
Called projection is what it's called.
Yeah, projection. That's it, right?
That's it. Exactly. And we're classic Lindsay. That's what it is. Exactly what they do.
Yeah, and we're in the centre here. We represent, the majority of people in Scotland who don't want to have a second referendum, who don't want to, who decided already. We decided, our fellow Scots decided that we'd stay in the UK, and we're tired of this constant, trying to pull us back into, more division and so on. It's just not. It's not really what we should be doing. But we've been having a lot of. I think it's so relentless that it's difficult to speak up, and I think a lot of people are scared. I mean, I've talked to many, many people, and they're scared of, business people. They don't want to put their head up, or just ordinary people who might go on Twitter and they don't want to put their face up because they're scared, that people will track them down, and all kinds of stuff happens. It does happen. It's really bad.
Let's pose the question to the audience as well. Are you frustrated at the political situation in Scotland? Tell us in the comments. I'm sure we'll have some belters. But I mean, it's true what you said, Mark. It's just, and I understand having been abroad and come back, it must have been a stark difference. It really is.
Well, it took me a while to figure out what was going on, really. At first I was just like, all right, okay. And then I think when the lockdown came, it became very apparent what was happening. Lockdown, I should say, COVID came, and and Sturgeon being on the TV every day, and you're like, that's not really the way it should be done. I think we all agree that a UK approach, a combined UK approach, would have been far better for that and to deal with that. So anyway, we have a number of aims as the majority, and I think we have fulfilled some of them. The number one aim is to unite the anti-nationalist majority. And we have over 45,000 followers on social media. Many of you are watching right now. And so I'd like to thank you all for your support along these 2 years. Everything you've done, shared, articles, memes, watched the podcast, told people about us, everything has helped us grow. And so we can hope that we could, actually thinking about it, if we could get the same again over the next 2 years, then having 100,000 followers would be quite a big thing. One of the most important things we tasked ourselves with was to fight media appeasement. And I think we've been quite successful in that. We have a bunch of journalists in this country who are basically they're either claim that they are anti-nationalists and then give nationalists indulge them with every single benefit of the doubt possible. And a good example of that would be the Times. And this is where we had Alex Massey saying that breaking up the UK was a respectable cause. And you're like, wait a minute, aren't you supposed to be on our side? This kind of thing. And we also have the same. We have these fake socialists. We talk a lot about that on the show, where they are these people. I think some of you were talking with them today, maybe David, and they say, I'm not a nationalist. I'm not a nationalist. Yet they support every single nationalist project. They want an independent Scotland. They want nationalist governments. It's really shocking.
Yeah. Above all else.
I got into a debate yesterday. Guy got into a debate 2 days ago, I think it was, with a guy who was a Polish chap living in Scotland, and he said to me, "You're clearly not nationalists. I mean, I don't know how you could think they are nationalists." And I said, "Well, okay, that's very interesting, but they very much are nationalists." And he said that, and I explained why. And he said, "Well, it depends what definition of nationalism you're using." I said, "Okay, well, let's start with the Oxford Dictionary with that." And he said, he said, "No, that doesn't explain nationalism very well." Right. Okay. Yeah. He said, "England, they're nationalists, but not Scotland."
Everyone's got their own facts these days. That's the problem, David.
Well, so like everyone I don't like is a nationalist. That's that kind of vibe. And actually, one of the things that I was really interested in at the beginning of this project, I suppose you call it a project, was that we wanted to expose nationalism as a toxic ideology, and the idea that nationalism is actually seen as something noble in Scotland. And they're so self-righteous about they're smug that, of course, Scotland should be an independent country. I mean, even after a referendum where the majority of Scots said, no, we'd much rather be in the United Kingdom. And it's just this self-righteousness of all, I think, is the thing that really annoys me more than anything else. Because it's just not a nice thing. It's a toxic, divisive, selfish ideology, and it should have no place in any modern country, never mind being in Scotland.
I back what you said, Mark. Just to echo you, I spent a lot of time outside of Scotland also, and most of the last 20 years, in fact, pretty much all the last 20 years. But to come back and see the people I knew, worked with, who were either Labour voters or Conservative voters, and an awful lot of them are now saying, "Oh yeah, nationalists, I vote SNP, and I know they're not very good, but if we get independence and you can vote for anybody you like in the Scottish elections," and I just think, what on earth has happened to you people? Seriously, since when is nationalism?
That's a bizarre thought as well.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
it's quite strange. And I talked to these people in the past, and they certainly didn't have those views back then. I remember people saying to me, "Oh no, I'm very much a socialist. I don't have anything to do with the SNP." But now apparently the SNP is seen as the Scottish Party, the Socialist Party, the true party of the people. Utter nonsense. We know they're a bunch of fantasists.
Couldn't be
That's all
further
they
from the
are.
truth, Anna.
Absolutely right.
It really is. Well, I think that's one of the things that it is very toxic, because it tries to appeal to all people by this by presenting this false goal. If only we were away from these other people, everything would be fantastic. We'd have unicorns in the sky, and money would fly from trees, and all this type of stuff. And that's the idea. It's someone else's fault. It's not our fault.
Yep.
It's them over there, those bad people.
Yep.
They're the ones to blame. I mean, you see it every day. We'll talk about this in a couple of the next segments. Just the constant blaming of other people, and that's what you can unite people. Actually, I was talking to someone yesterday about this, and they were saying, well, the communists or the socialists, they were like, oh, class warfare will divide people. The rich against the poor, and so on, like that, or the poor against the rich, I should say, really. And okay, that's their goal. But if you go to the next level of nationalism, it's like, well, the rich and the poor can be all against those bastard English over there, and that's a very dangerous and toxic situation. I think
absolutely, and this is what strikes. Happily say we're not nationalists. We're not nationalists at all. And in any event, English nationalism is far worse than ours. Just say, prove you are a national, because you're saying that we are better than another country. And it's just the lack of awareness. It's just, you're right, Mark. I mean, if Scotland was the size of the population of Germany or France, this really would be a very dangerous situation.
Yes.
Exactly. But because we're a relatively small and dwindling population country, thank goodness, we haven't got the capability to throw our weight about in the international arena. Certainly, the stuff that's happened here, I never thought I would see. Never. Didn't think Scottish.
It's really shocking. And I think I have to say a word about another thing we've been fighting for is stronger opposition. I think we all want that.
Agree with
and it's no secret that we think the Scots Tories have been useless. They're so scared of nationalists, calling them the branch office, that they'll separate. They'll fight against the leader. They'll fight against the UK party. And which is exactly what the nationalists want. It's like, to stop showing fear to these people. Stop always fighting on their battleground. It's like you just say, no, I'm not doing that, because you give them an inch, they take a mile, they keep going on and on and on. They'll never give up. You'd think this referendum was supposed to settle it. No, even if they lost the next one, it would just keep going on and on and on. And that's why you have to stop appeasing them and just say, draw a line in the sand. No, you lost. We're moving on. And that's what we have to do. And I think one of the things that we have to do on our side is bolster our own support to believe that. And I think so many of our followers do believe that. And then to say, okay, to the politicians, look, we've got this following of people who don't want appeasement. They want you to be strong. You don't want you to be disloyal. We don't want you. They want you to be united and fight properly. And that's a thing that we can do, I think, as we get bigger. So anyway, I think as we hope over the past 2 years that we have helped you out a little bit as in your fight against nationalism, and we hope in whatever project we're doing that we can get our message across. We're doing a podcast now, and if you would like to help us continue our fight, then please do help us with a donation, or tell your friends, or share, or whatever it is. Every little thing helps. It really does. Financial support is great.
If you can donate monetarily, please do like and share, comment, increase the interaction, tell someone at the very least.
Right. Okay. Well, please let us know what you think of the majority. If it's helped you in any way, if it's just something you watch, it's fine as well. It's okay. But we hope we're of some use anyway. And I'm very particularly happy that our core group is growing. We have David, Niall, and other people that we have come and talk with us and help us grow our little movement, and hopefully we can do more over the next few years. Moving on, we are going to be talking about this Nicholas Sturgeon. Can Scotland afford this person? Let's move to the next stage. Big question. Right. We hear a lot about the cost of living crisis, but does Scotland have a cost of sturgeon crisis? A few days ago, she announced that she's going to be spending 20 million on a referendum. Apparently, it's going to happen in 2023. Not much time to plan that. What do you think? How do you think of that, Niall?
Well, firstly, it's not going to happen. It won't happen because the likelihood that is that it won't be legal in any case. So it'll be boycotted or rejected with zero bearing. You know, they could run an advisory referendum, it's got no bearing on anything. So effectively, we're punting 20 million away before we've even kicked the ball. I mean, it's obscene. And like you said, in the cost of the sturgeon crisis, it's just more money than the drain.
Message from Betty there. Thanks for joining us. I'm glad to have you with us, and we hope that you'll stay with us over the next few weeks. David, you must have some thoughts on this pretendy ref.
I certainly do. I mean, to me, it's they are going through the classic backing themselves into a corner here. They're insisting there'll be a referendum. They're saying, yes, it's going to happen, it's going to happen, it's going to happen. To put it in the budget, a figure, an amount of money just for next year. Okay, so they're clearly thinking they're going to do something next year. I can see nothing but trouble ahead in terms of a worsening of the fallout between Westminster and Holyrood in the next year. And she's clearly got some stunt plan, because they couldn't possibly retain a shred of credibility by saying we're going to have a referendum, it's definitely going to happen, and then get into next year and then scratching their heads and saying, oh my goodness, there's been no referendum, what are we going to do now? That's not going to happen. So they've clearly got something planned, but to me, it's the cheek of it, really. It's just the nerve these people have got of trying to subvert democracy by saying, oh, hang on a minute, we've got our mandate because we stood on this platform in the election which we won. Yeah, okay, well, let's explore that a second. You also stood on a mandate of to stop Brexit and keep Boris Johnson out of Downing Street. Well, seen as they won that election, as they put it, and as in got most seats in Scotland, does that mean they have a mandate to stop Brexit? It's ludicrous. You cannot say a regional party in a devolved administration has a mandate to do anything which is a reserved issue. You can't do that. It's completely false.
It really is utter nonsense. The thing that amazes me is that people still believe this is going to happen. Now, there is one possibility that they can do. They can have the advisory referendum, and even if it's boycotted, they can say that it was a victory, right? But the Scotland Act is quite clear that anything to do with a constitutional issue, and I think that includes, getting an opinion on a constitutional issue, and I think most people would agree with that as well. And I think this idea of trying to get some kind of very narrow legal interpretation of something is not something that really washes with most people. No. I think most people are like, you're just trying to, you're trying to
legalize your way out of a situation.
Exactly. And I think that's not really what it's about. We had a referendum. Absolutely. That was the point of a referendum. Yeah. Now, if you're trying to do this some kind of scam, really, it sounds like a scam to most people. And you can see the desperation on them. I had another guy yesterday who's like, oh, the UN's going to come and save us and all this type of stuff. And you're like, no, they're not. Just leave. Why do you persist in this delusion? It's not going to happen. Even if it did happen, it would be boycotted, be useless. So I don't know. It just seems like, will they just transfer it back to 2024? I don't know. I mean, is it possible? Anyway, sorry, we're actually supposed to be talking.
Maybe they're on the next campaign or another one.
Well, that's the thing. Well, I don't know. I mean, David, you said that they've got some planning or something. I don't know. I think they might have. I think they've run out of ideas, to be honest.
No, I think they've run out of road as well. I mean, they've run out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see. There's certainly no way they can force Johnson to give them a referendum. So the plan has got to be either it's going to be some thinking will be okay. want a referendum, we will take it to Westminster and Johnson's, and that will prove to the people of Scotland that this is undemocratic, something like that. Or else she might try that stunt that Kenny Farquharson talked about the other week. If that's a very long shot, dissolving Parliament and calling it, I think that's complete rubbish. Yeah. I suspect they will pull some stunt, and it could be just like Gina Miller and Joe Cherry did after Brexit, taking all those legal cases. It might be something like that. I don't really know.
Yeah, but
I just think
really wants to go through
I
all
know,
that.
I know. We're not going through that.
It's a way down a legal hole, right? It's not, and it's just
sure.
not. I don't think that's the way people are going to do things.
I don't think so. I suspect they will try something, unless it's going to be Sturgeon is going to choose this as the hill upon which she wants to die and say, I tried everything. I feel I've let you down, so I'm standing down. Maybe that's it. Maybe she's got a new job from next year. I don't know. But she's going to pull some stunt, I think. I don't know what.
I don't know if they're strong enough to do any stunts. That's what I'm trying to say. I think
I don't think they're strong.
I think they're all out of ideas. They're at the end of the road, and I think they have to know that how far can they take this?
I think they've peaked, and they're coming down, and they're coming down hard.
I agree. In terms of the numbers, absolutely. The STV poll you might have seen today, guys, they factored in don't knows to make it 50-50. It was a lot less. It was far more so, more no than yes. And that was 5 points down from the equivalent poll in December. So it is on the slide. I mean, it got a bit of a boost. The idea of independence got a bit of a boost when Sturgeon was doing her one-man, soliloquy to the nation during COVID, because apparently, I guess it shows that people like being spoken to in a time of crisis, in terms of somebody talking their language, as I kept hearing people saying. So they got a bit of a boost then, but it's slid ever since. Even in the lead up to the election last year, which they won quite convincingly in Holyrood, it wasn't even at 50-50 then, and not seeing any opinion now with independence over 50%. So it's clearly the idea of it is on the slide. There's no doubt. So where do they go from here? I don't know. I mean, maybe this is it. Maybe they're just going to say, "Oh well, we tried."
I did notice Anna Sarwar's favourability was higher than Nicola Sturgeon's.
And the first time in a long time anyone's beat her.
It's not actually anyone. So it's maybe perhaps encouraging.
Definitely it's encouraging, Mark, and well done to Annis for managing to supplant.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not a traditional Labour supporter, but I think he seems like a decent fellow. And he's not like you see Sturgeon talking to people in that Parliament. What is it like? It's like that scene in the Hobbit, where,
vitriol.
Not the Hobbit, where the in the Lord of the Rings, where
is it Smeagol becomes
Bilbo goes.
Bilbo.
He's really fierce. He's like that's what it feels like. It's like it's not right. I don't think it's right. But we're actually supposed to be talking about all the money that this person is costing. Last week we talked about how she was costing just the decisions for the Scottish government, the Scottish Parliament government cost 600 million a year times Sturgeon's reign, £4.5 billion just to decide to give Scots higher taxes that don't bring in more money, to make a ferry that doesn't sail, 2 ferries, I should say, to buy an airport where planes can't fly or don't really fly to give a big country estates to foreign business people, and the list goes on. I could go on for another 5 minutes probably for all this thing. And all this money, that's just the money to decide it, not the money that's actually being wasted along the way. And,
absolutely.
There's just so much of it. What is...
Let us know in the comments your favourites wastage. Let us know. Because, like you said, you could go on for 5 minutes, Mark. Imagine what the comments are going to throw up. There's going to be hundreds.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to say a shout out to Rita and some of the other people who have been commenting there. We do read all the comments as they come in, and Mary's behind the scenes there selecting them. So please do keep them coming. But what is your favourite? What's your favourite misspend of the Scottish government? Trumps. That's what they should.
I think my one tops all the trumps. I mean, it's the reverse Uno card. It's the perfect, right? So, I mean, for starters, the biggest, and I mean, this is truly gargantuan, undeniable waste of public money was spending 1 million of our money, folks. You, me, Mark, David, the listeners, our money on dressing up a ferry that couldn't sell, that didn't have all the windows fitted, money spent painting the windows on, and from 2017 till now, 5 years, still hasn't sailed. So we, Joe Public, paid for fake windows to be painted on purely for Sturgeon's PR gallivanting. It's just
the whole thing is actually
unbelievable.
If you think about it, the whole thing is for Sturgeon's PR gallivanting, right? You know, every freebie that she says, free bikes, free laptops, whatever. And now we're getting to the point where that has to be reined in. I mean, there is a certain, I think people, they don't seem to see that there's an opportunity cost. That means that, you know, the money could have gone somewhere else.
Surely,
right?
I mean, we the public cannot be paying for Sturgeon's PR, although we are, and we are paying through the nose. But we should not be able to pay for her PR and spin doctors. It's just, it's obscene.
That's direct as a spin doctors, right? But every freebie is also a thing that.
Oh, of course, it's an electoral,
right? So it's okay. He's paying for 50 spin doctors, but you've also got, you know, the cost of all these things. It's you know, one person's poor decisions. They've made a huge amount of poor decisions. They've hired the worst people who can't make any better decisions. And, you know, it's one rule, I suppose. It might be a different rule in politics, but rule in business is hire people who are more competent than you are, right? And so you can actually get things done, because you can't do everything yourself.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the things that's happening here. Everything's being done by one person.
True. I mean, let's not forget that. Sorry, I was just going to say, let's not forget that the whole point of that ferry fiasco that time, launching that ship when it wasn't even halfway worthy, was because George Osborne, I think it was, had been up at Rosyth or one of the other yards, launching or announcing that there was going to be some more Royal Navy ships built there. So this was simply a political stunt. That's all it was. And
it's all stunts. It's just government by stunts.
Yes. Sorry, what did it say when you launch a ship? God bless her and all who sail in her. Well, that's 0 people in 5 years when she's launched it, folks.
Oh, I don't know if those ferries will ever
no, they won't go anywhere.
Well, apparently now they're saying that it's so ill-fated. The mistakes are so fundamental. But they will almost certainly lose. I'm pretty sure they will. So, well, what will that tell us about the ability of the?
We've run on this segment quite long. So what we'll do, we'll come back to this in a second, and then we'll see if we can move on. If we can't, we may have to drop a segment.
Okay,
but we're back in a second. Right. Well, we're glad to have you with us here today. It's a Jubilee and everyone's out and enjoying the weather. It was raining a wee bit earlier on, but it's nice today. I think we're all, whether you believe in the monarchy or not, I think many of us have to accept that not accept, that's not the right word. Many of us respect that the Queen has, as head of state, has done her job with dignity and duty for these many, many, many years. And you can't really say long may it continue, because she is quite getting on. But as long as she can do that, then in as I say, dignity and grace, then perhaps she can continue. Moving on, we're going to talk a little about. David's going to talk a little bit about Kate's. What did Katie cut next?
Indeed.
Just we chat about that. What you got? You're on.
I'm here. Okay, so Kate Forbes, the SNP's esteemed finance minister, this week produced a budget. Now, this was done against the backdrop of a reported £3.5 billion black hole in Scotland's finances over the next 4 years. And one of the items of waste which Anna Sarwar talked about earlier this month, in fact last month, was that he estimates that £3 billion has been wasted in SNP incompetence. So it's, I mean, these figures are just eye-watering, really. £3 billion. That's
You
unbelievable
divide it by the number of people in the country, and it's still a big number per person.
Indeed,
It's
huge. So of course
shocking.
we know that Kate found money for her priority. What the idea is she said, I can't prioritize everything, so I've got to spend money on what she considers more important matters. So we know that she's found 20 million, as we've said, for the vote in independence. So the pretense is continuing absurdly. But she also this week decided that the items which would have cuts imposed on spending would be such trivial matters as local government budgets, the councils, policing, prisons, early learning, universities, rural affairs. So they are the items, the headline items, all of which will see cuts. And these cuts are over 1.1 billion over 4 years. Now, she balanced this by saying, okay, we're going to improve health and social care spending or increase health and social care spending, which will go up marginally. But already a financial institution has come out to say, well, these figures, I wouldn't even touch the sides of what's needed in health in Scotland. So it's ridiculous. So some of the most eye-catching sums of money I saw in this little budget, leaving aside the independence cost for next year, for the next 4 years, she has allocated £23 million of spend on external affairs. What on earth can that be? £23 million per year for each of the next 4 years.
That'll be the offices in Brussels, to maintain the fantasy that they will go back to the EU. I mean, we saw Angus Robertson, I think.
Yes,
and want us later in tow as well.
Yes,
on a wee jolly to Brussels.
Yeah, it's like why? It's not necessary at all. I was reading that, of course, they blamed Westminster for these, cuts, but actually, there's a very good article I got here by Dean Thompson. It's called "It Wasn't Me, I'm Scottish," and he goes into actually in quite good detail here, and basically, it's really very interesting. Basically, it says that they have to. It's first of all that the tax revenue is declining because they decide to tax everyone at high rate, and of course, what people do then is they hide their money, and they decide not to. In some cases, they decide not to do extra work, and they decide just they've been they move.
I'd rather pay less in tax, aye.
Right. So basically, they've lost. First of all, they've got a £200 million shortfall, and then we've got inflation's coming, right? So we've got these. They're saying, "Oh, we'll in real terms, these will stay the same, and the funding will stay the same." But it's not. It's just going to go down. And what they've been doing, actually, according to this article, was they've been taking money. They've been spending all the money on what's it called, social services. And they've been taking money out of the budget to pay for that, all the other stuff. And now that's caught up with them. So they've got nowhere to run anymore. They've been spending too much money. It's not their money. They don't see it as their money. And spending too much of it. And now there's a reckoning coming. And we're getting this ridiculous situation where we have services cut to the bone, and then what they call it, local authorities are being cut and cut and cut. And people, SNP are actually trying to argue, the followers are trying to argue that this is good stuff, when if it was the Tories that were saying the same thing, they'd be up in arms about it.
It would be austerity this, austerity that.
That's right. What is austerity?
I mean, the situation, why are they not finding the cuts within their own government or their own administration? It's outrageous to me that we're being, it's always the people on the bottom rung of society that end up paying for everything. All the time, always. I mean, the cuts never come from the MSP's wages or the expenses or the limousines. We have to cut back in the limousines, Kate. I'm sorry, we can't just take them out everywhere. I mean, where's the sort of empathy with the sort of people on the bottom, the working class? Where is the empathy? They need to feel our cuts as much as we're facing it. I think they should find the cuts in the government.
Well, of course, we all think that, but they had this thing. She said that implied that it was 30,000 new jobs were going to be cut from the Scottish government that had been had over the past few years because of the pandemic. And I was like, 30,000 jobs? Wait a minute. You had 30,000 people And now you're going to fire them. What couldn't that money have been used for other stuff? Police all the time you're
Absolutely.
saying we can't have more police, we can't have more train drivers, we can't have more whatever. And yes, 30,000 people just hired like that because they're in the Scottish government. If you're employed by the Scottish government, you're going to have to vote for the
Yeah.
the people you're
You know
employed.
who.
That's the thinking, yeah. But this that
People give you the
highlights
money.
that there's no surprise to me that there's such a large public sector workforce in Scotland, because in government, in the SNP particularly, they have got no idea, no concept whatever of what it takes to run a private business, because the levels of spend and overspend they are incurring are simply unsustainable. You could never get away with this. You wouldn't get away with a fraction of this in the private sector. These companies would go bust. And it's as you said, Mark, it's just they think it's somebody else's fault and somebody else's money. They don't care. It's every night's Burns night for these people. It's just unbelievable, the spend. So I can't.
I guess for everyone.
Indeed, I guess for everyone. But I mean, there's a figure in that budget also. In fact, the largest single ticket item was £177 million every year on culture and major events.
Yeah, I noticed that myself. I was like, what, how is that even possible? What is that? I'd like to see a breakdown of that and find out where that money is going, because that sounds very much like a slush fund to their pals.
Aye, the comedy clubs. We need to prop up Tommy Shepherd's comedy clubs for the culture. It's all for the culture, guys.
So I mean,
all right.
To have the cheek to raise sums of money like that, or to say yes, we're going to spend this money, this amount, these figures, while they're slashing public services, which are already on their knees and literally falling apart. Well, and maybe there's some hope. There's just to end this with a little bit of hope. You probably know SNP cheerleader in chief among Police Scotland, Callum Steele. He's like a joke figure. He's always very positive about nationalists. Well, yesterday he appeared on Twitter with a little piece to camera saying how disgraceful it was that police funding is being cut. So maybe people are starting, even the converted are starting to see that really.
Well, I think it's one thing to blame Tory austerity, which they're trying to do, and we'll come on to that maybe a little bit later. But it's SNP austerity now. They spent too much money, and now they have to. The piper has come to be paid, or whatever it is, and it's their fault. It's not Westminster's fault. They spent the money.
Exactly.
That's it. Right. Well, we'll be coming back to this, no doubt, many times over the future episodes, as each part of the creaking Scottish government comes to a grinding halt. We're going to have a little bit of Niall talking about
I'll race about
the train that didn't come. Just a second.
Right, I'm conscious that we've not got much time. Okay, so tonight I just wanted to briefly touch on the travel chaos, and it's first up. It's got to be ScotRail, and Mark's right. It's a train to nowhere. So we're going nowhere with this. Scotland's taking the train to nowhere, and it was always on the cards that ScotRail would become a huge Scot that fail. As soon as it was announced that it was taken into public ownership. However, I think all of us were maybe a bit surprised at just how rapid the decline came in ScotRail. It feels like it's only been a week or two, and it's fell apart. I mean, the transfer for Abellio to the Scottish Government should have been handled over like a 6-month period, or even 9 to 12 months or something like that. But it's come too quick, and the fall off has been too bad. So I mean, my faith in the administration to achieve anything of any nominal level is at an all-time low. And please do let us know in the comments, do you have faith in this SNP administration? Well, I think maybe you've got faith that they'll waste more money and cause more damage in the process. So I think, Mark, if you could load up this new Mercurius.
Yeah, we'll have a look at that. Okay, so here it comes. Oh, where's it going? Where's it up there?
So enjoy this, folks.
Okay, it seems to have stopped there for some reason. Anyway, that's a good idea.
But it's a great video. It's
Yeah, I think we can recommend for any of our followers to have a look at Mercurius Scott, and they do amazing videos that really highlight some of the challenges that we've got in the Scottish life today. I would just say one thing about the ScotRail thing is that now it's exposed. These cracks and everything was happening under the previous
Yep.
situation, but they surely, as a government, they should have been pressuring Abellio to deal with these things and to be on top of it. But it shows that they weren't doing that, first of all, and they think for some reason, it seems like they thought, oh, we'll nationalise it and everything will be great. But again, it's virtue signalling. I think is the idea that they can get a headline out of it, but the actual practicalities of running the thing are far, far beyond them.
I'm still under the impression that it's the same manager, right? So it's the same CEO or the manager of Abellio that was used and retained for ScotRail under nationalisation. So, I mean, we've kept the guy who failed Abellio to then fails again.
Okay.
I mean, and just touching on, I mean, the worst aspect of these trains is the latest time in which they depart. I mean, it's outrageously early sometimes, and having worked unsociable hours for years and years, trains were a lifeblood to get to and fro. And I mean,
Absolutely.
after midnight, even 5 a.m, stuff like that. So it's the unsociable hours, and it's going to have an impact on people staying a bit later in the city. The hospitality sector is going to end up taking a bump on top of the already horrible things that have happened to them through the COVID lockdown. So, I mean, it's just outrageous. And I was going to talk about the ferries, but we're all sick of talking about the ferries at this point. But I mean, what I was going to
it's
say
the whole
about the ferries
transportation
is,
thing, isn't it?
It's the whole transport rolled into one, but the islanders specifically, sorry, but they need constant and they need consistent, reliable ferries to the islands. So these islands are run effectively all on tourism, and if you think that you might not even be able to get a ferry, the mere thought of that might put you off going there in the first place. So we need consistent, reliable ferries all times, and we can't have these links down at all, not once.
No, you're quite right there. Now, we're going to move on. Tonight's show is going to probably run 5 minutes late. We hope you can stay with us because it's time for Zoomer of the Week. Right, so I don't think we do need to rush particularly through this.
We'll
just go late.
Still got 10 minutes, guys.
That's fine. Okay.
Actually, hold on. David is first then. All right. So, David, your nomination for this week's Zoomer.
Okay, this week, in a little bit of a protocol breach, if you like, I'm making a nomination. I'm going to give it to a group of people. Now, the recipients of my nomination are the Scottish Green MSPs who left the Holyrood Chamber yesterday to avoid participation in a debate. And the subject matter of the debate was the Queen's Jubilee. So quite apart from the rank hypocrisy of MSPs, each one of whom has to swear an oath of allegiance to Her Majesty the Queen on taking their places in Holyrood, it's also nothing but bad manners to be so disrespectful to someone about whom you've rightly said, Mark, is a hugely respected and a revered figure worldwide, and the job she does for the country she clearly loves cannot possibly be by anybody. So to see these grubby non-entities walking out of the chamber was, to me, easily the most nauseating sight of the week. Now, that is quite an accolade when you consider that I actually saw Kirsty Blackman on TV live last Sunday morning with a hangover. This made me nauseated. So,
well, one can only hope that they would stay out of Parliament permanently, but they unfortunately chose this one. I mean, it's just it's someone else says it's petty student politics. It's really the lowest level. You don't need to be a monarchist, and I'm pretty sure many of our followers are not monarchists. They might think, well, maybe there's better alternatives to the monarchy or whatever. So that's a question that can be debated and so on. But and especially certainly the future of the monarchy is a question that can be debated. But there's no denying that the Queen has put in her years of service, and she's done with that in the best way she possibly could. And I mean,
Yeah.
who can really complain about that? Plus, we got some good episodes of The Crown out of it. So I mean, what
We
more do you need?
absolutely did, yeah.
Yes. I mean, just to my mind, this type of stuff really harms Scotland's international reputation and standing in the world. If you see people doing something like this, it just everyone just thinks, my God, how petty can you be? That's so. I mean, nothing that Harvey, Slater, and Greer ever do should surprise us, because we know they're no marks, as they call them.
Well, I wonder if the Queen got on a
England.
bicycle,
Yeah,
and cycled around
with
in her net zero bicycle. Then
Exactly.
and maybe they might like her then.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm reaching here. It's not
you mentioned Ross Greer. I mean, what age do you think Ross Greer is? Like 30, 35, in between, somewhere about
he's
that?
Actually, isn't he about 26? He's only about 26, I think.
Well, I mean, weigh that up against the age of the Queen, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And the amount of the wisdom and experience that she's have, and vastly more life experience than obviously Ross, and not to have the respect after dedicating her life to the country. It's just
some people are complaining about the money, and it's like as if France, US, and Germany don't spend money on national events. They don't spend money on their presidents. It's like you go to America, every 4 years there's a presidential election. It costs billions and billions of dollars, right?
That's true, and
that's every 4 years. So I mean, just you can add that up,
and let's not forget also, Mark, on that point, the president of the US, the man who's elected president of the US, is always the guy who's been able to afford the most lucrative, the most money-spinning campaign. So they literally buy the presidency. So I mean,
it's an industry, aye.
Yeah. Well, anyway,
that's my nominee. Awful, dreadful thing. I'm very.
Well, I wonder if they gave up their holiday, or they're working the holiday.
No, definitely working. Definitely working.
It's one thing we had said that on Twitter the other day. It's like, okay, you can if you say you're Scottish, not British, then okay, don't take the money. All right, stand by your principles. Don't take the money. Don't take the holidays. Don't take the defence. Don't do what That's what you should be doing. Not just saying put in your bio, Scottish, not British. It's like, all right, okay.
But the principles are for sale, Mark.
Well, we all know that.
Exactly.
All right, moving on.
Righty.
It's just a matter of the price, I guess.
Yes, it is, Mark. Yeah. So is it me? Is it my Zoomer of the week?
Is it? Yeah, I think you. Oh, yeah.
Right, okay. My Zoomer of the week is quite a regular Zoomer of the week. He crops up time to time, and his name is Hamza Yousaf. And if you're listening to the show, you've probably already seen this video because it is gold. And I'm sure you're aware of who Hamza Yousaf is. But what has he been saying this week? Well, this very day via Radio Clyde, let's watch this video.
Right, okay. Just the first part of it. So
what it will do is we'll build upon some of the good programmes we've got. So, for example, in some parts of the country, we're looking to see if we can schedule you an A&E appointment. So you don't just turn up. You have to wait for.
Oops, I didn't like me moving it there. Schedule your A&E appointments.
Schedule your A&E appointments, right? So, in essence, for what I gleaned for this, I'm not the most intelligent person in the world. I don't claim to be, but for what I've gleaned from Yousaf's strategy to bring down A&E waiting times, it's to have the waiting to be done, no in the hospital. Therefore, it brings down the waiting times. Do you see? Problem solved, guys. Problem solved. I mean, wrong. It means people will be waiting in the house instead. I mean, come on, guys. Is this the best we've got? Is this the best politician we can have in charge? Our health minister, guys. Is this the best we've got?
It's quite something. So, maybe it's like if you're getting a heart attack, you should wait an hour at home before you come into A&E.
Well, the thing is, what he's alluding to is we'll triage you over the phone. We'll triage you over the phone, and we'll decide if you need to come in right now or you can wait a while.
You could turn the phone into a defibrillator. That's the plan. Using the Scottish defibrillator app.
Oh, please.
So yes,
and I
I
can
mean
say
that's a
on that
level
one,
it's at,
David,
though,
it's
isn't
just
it?
this has got to be the most
Well, I mean,
outrageous thing said.
absolutely. I mean, the idea that you can. I used to make a joke about this when I used to run IT functions in various companies, and one year we were talking about disaster recovery. It was in a place where they weren't particularly IT literate. So just to cut the long story short, I said to them, okay, so we're going to try and expose to anything bad happening, implement a total disaster relief plan because that's very expensive. So could we please not have any disasters this year, right? And they said, "Oh, that's a good idea." Yeah,
Exactly.
actually, they took it literally. You know, oh God, I think I'm in the wrong place here. But it's the same thing, isn't it? Look, don't have any accidents because we can't see you. You know, oh God, come on, Hamza. Seriously,
Great
mate,
comments there.
This,
Comments coming in from everyone. It's just a bizarre thing to say.
It
But
is
you know,
really.
they laugh it up. That's the thing. You just.
yeah.
Rita puts it best there. We're all doctors now. Are we all
Right.
doctors now? Because
Yeah.
surely a doctor has to lay
Yeah.
his eyes upon you in order to triage you, diagnose you, to see if you're deemed to go into the hospital. Surely you
Well, it's
can't
one
do it
way.
over the phone.
Yeah.
It's not a
Oh, I
Zoom
mean,
call situation for me.
so you're stuck waiting at home, and you don't know when's the ambulance come? After you've waited, or while you're waiting? I don't know. It's like
Or after you're dead.
yeah, like some people. Sadly, that has happened to some
Yes.
people.
I mean, it's not
Right.
half a
Well,
matter, right?
Hamza is a perennial
Oh,
favourite for your Zoomer of the week. So we'll see. Will he win or will he not? I don't know. Right. Oh, lost my notes again. All right. So I have Kirsty Blackman, who, while looking like she was dragged through a hedge, said that windfall taxes on energy companies that apparently come from Scotland were to be used. She was upset that they were going to be used for the entire UK. I have the clip here. I don't know if we'll play the whole thing. We'll see how far we get. Actually, we have to start halfway through. I can't think of it.
To the pandemic. I mean, why should the Amazons and the Circles of this world get away scot-free? The other issue with the windfall tax is that 90% of that money that is being generated is generated from income made in Scotland. And actually, it feels very unfair that Scotland is having to pay for the entirety of the UK. If Scotland was an independent country, the windfall tax would generate £1,800 for every household in Scotland. So it feels like we are paying the price for the Chancellor's failings here. So we've been calling for
Has there ever been a better example
Yeah.
of nationalism is greed than that's there? It's just absolutely shocking. And numerous commentators have pointed this out, that it was ignorant, that it was greedy, it was selfish, and just the idea that we'll draw this line and we have a common resource in the country that we're going to use to help out everyone, and they want to keep it for themselves. And someone said, so they would rather have the money go to middle class Scots than poor people in Liverpool, Hull, Cornwall, and other places. It's absolutely despicable. It's just absolutely despicable. And I think the most people, any person who's a socialist, should look at that and just think that I mean, it doesn't even, you don't need to be a socialist. You just need to be a decent person. But particularly if you're a socialist who's supporting nationalism, you should be looking at that and saying that is not what we're about. That's not what socialism is about. Socialism is about pooling and sharing, and even that you can even accept that conservative government put in a windfall tax, which is a non-conservative position, to help out people all across the country, and they're complaining about it.
And the ground on which she's complaining, of course, she's saying it's coming from Scotland. Hang on a minute. You mean this is money being raised by companies which happen to be operating in the sea, the North Sea, off the coast of Scotland and England too? Only 12 miles is as far as regional waters actually extend. When outside that, it's UK waters. So that's not Scotland paying for it. It's the fact is that those companies exist in a place in the sea which is quite geographically close to salt. That's not the same as Scotland paying for it. And the other point, of course, is she said the windfall tax would be £1,800 if we were independent. I thought we were going to stop oil exploration, in which case the windfall tax would be zero because the Greens would stop us.
Yeah,
Anybody
absolute nonsense. Well,
It's a circular. It's just we keep going in circles, guys. I mean, this has been the same argument for the last 8 years. It's just been outrageous. I mean, she had me for about 5 seconds, right? Amazon, Serco, yes, we can't allow them to get away scot-free. She prefaces it with that, and then she just goes, "Oh, by the way." And Dennis Matheson, I see you made a good. At what point is Scotland invested in the production of oil and gas? I mean, surely these have been UK investments in these oil refineries that now we can co-opt and take for ourselves. Come on, it's just pure greed. It's pure greed, Mark.
It is, and it's been the same the whole thing, and that's one of the things. When I was told, I said this before on the show. It's like when I was a kid and I was in primary school. Yeah, primary school, and there was a play on the TV, and there was a guy, he was a Scottish guy, and he was drinking from his bottle, saying it's our oil. And even at that point, I realised that this was just greed. It's not our oil. Never was our oil. It's the UK's oil. It has been the UK's oil since the beginning. It's UK companies that extracted it. And we've been lucky as the UK to get the taxes from it that helped everyone in the UK.
Yes.
That's what it was about. And it's not about drawing a line. They want to draw a line. It's our stuff. We'll take all the good stuff when it suits us. And we'll take all the benefits when it doesn't suit us. That's not right.
Absolutely
it's just
right.
pure greed. Nationalism, just as pure greed. Ran over. David's turn to decide.
Oh,
right. Okay. There can only be one this week, and that is on several grounds. It's Kirsty Blackman, because to me she is a dreadful example of how you get become a career politician. She's clearly unable to even keep a consistent line of argument. She looks, well, extraordinary is all I can say. I don't know if she's lost mirrors in the house, but my God, I can't believe she turns out that way at all. But she repeatedly talks utter guff, and I'm sick to death of listening to her. So, Kirsty Blackman, your Zoomer of the Week, deservedly so.
Yes, well deserved. Right, okay, we're going to wrap up. We did run a little bit late tonight, but we're glad that you are with us on the show, because we do have a little bit of chat, and we've had absolutely amazing comments from all of you. It's been really great, and you make the show interesting for us, actually, while we're doing it, and make us think, oh, okay, what are we doing here? So anyway, we'd like to now say hello to the lady who's dealing with the chat. It's Mary. Are you there? There you are.
Mary.
Well, good evening, everyone, on this happy Jubilee weekend. I hope you're all having a lovely weekend.
Right.
And the comments tonight were keeping my mouse almost on fire, I think. I think that's definitely the most comments we've ever had.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
So
really
well
good.
done, everyone. Thank you.
And I think it's quite good that we are attracting some nutters, as you might expect, and that shows that we're getting bigger. We're getting bigger because of you watching this, telling people about it, sharing it, talking about it, and just watching it, right?
Yeah.
We do the show for you, and so thank you very much, Stuart.
That's Stuart. That's my old pal from Troon. Stuart, great to see you on here. Great to see Pete Morris and all the regulars.
We've got all those, and we've got the regular viewers, and thank you very much for all that. Also, big thanks, of course, to our friends at UK Union Voice and United Against Separation and everyone else who supports us. I'll leave you with the thought of the week. Nationalists are always telling us that if a referendum is denied, it's going to cause a surge in support for independence. But a referendum has been denied since 2014, and support for breaking up the UK is dropping. So how about the UK continue to deny it and let support drop further? In other words, no more appeasement. That's what we want. We'll see you again next Thursday. Thank you from me.
Yes, goodbye from me, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
All right, take care.
Enjoy bank holiday.
Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your holiday. Take care. Bye now.